they'd make mistakes sometime and call me change. I talked to 200-year-old women yesterday. So they were voting before they could vote, and they were so excited to be able to cast a vote for women for president.
Yesterday I talked to an 86-year-old woman who said she was super fired up for Hillary, and don't tell her neighbors, but her Republican husband was too.
Talked to a woman whose husband was ill and was hoping to last long enough to vote for Hillary. Unfortunately, he passed away, so their whole family were dedicating their votes to her late husband.
Spoke to a woman, 76, she's voted her entire life. Didn't realize the election was today.
Oh, no.
Was hoping she could vote tomorrow. She understood she was going to call her sister, her neighbor, and her son.
That's why these calls are... See, that's one of those examples where you know that the calls that we're making are important. That is literally a vote that would not have been cast in an extremely important state, that literally the margin of victory was only 2 votes per precinct. So literally, you got a voter to the polls that would not have been there. That is amazing. That deserves another round of applause.
I'm going to say this because my sister is probably going to cry if she says it. But she spoke to someone a couple days ago who recently had an aneurysm in her 60s. And she couldn't, I think, write, and she couldn't really walk either. And she was really stressed out. She didn't have a ballot. She hadn't got her absentee one. And she didn't know how to get there, what she was going to do. And Sophie gave her all the info, got her a ride, and got it done.
I don't know if this counts, but my mother is 96 and she's in Paris and called me this morning, and all her neighbors have voted.
That is amazing. I thought I saw another hand up.
I talked with 2 first-time voters today that were so excited to cast their first ballot for Hillary.
What's going to be awesome, and please don't take this personally, white guys in the crowd. But for over 200 plus years, 240 years, America has had one type of person that has known, I can absolutely do anything that I want to be, because the most powerful person literally in the world looks exactly like me. And in 2008, and that was back when, I'll say, I was a comedian sleeping on the couch eating ramen noodles, doing a radio show, and somebody said, go do this Camp Obama thing because you keep kicking people's butts on the radio about this. So somebody gave me an application, and it was a really long form with like essays and whatnot, and I applied, and that was just to be a volunteer. I know, they were like, yeah, you want to be a volunteer? You got to earn it. So we showed up, and there were, I think there were like over 200 people for a 2-day training, 12 hours each day, to learn how to community organize. I see it, the beautiful thing is I see so many of those faces in this room, that are here still today, who had never been active in politics before in their life. And we helped, I'm about to cry, hold on. Trying to hold it in! But we showed the world that change was possible. That not even the change of laws, but the change of ideas. So that every kid born since 2008 sees that, oh, there's a whole different, anybody can become president. And now, in 2016, if we all do what we're supposed to do, every little girl is going to wake up and know there's no ceiling.
That's right.
And every boy's going to know there's no such thing as you throw like a girl, you act like a girl, you do like a girl. You are the same. And that is truly amazing. And that wouldn't happen if there weren't rooms of people just like this, filled with people just like you, making sure that Hillary Clinton is going to be the next president of the United States of America. So I want you guys to, I know that sometimes you guys are on the dialer and you hear a bunch of not home or lots of voicemails, but hopefully in hearing these stories of people who've talked to these voters, that you guys will know that this is worth it. This is why making those calls, dialing through, piling in, because if you get that one person who didn't know that election day was today, or you get that one person who, as I heard a story in Santa Monica where they were saying, well, something didn't seem right, and there was somebody that was waiting outside of a polling place and just collecting absentee ballots for people. And we were able to track down that information, run it up the train, and get somebody out there to find out what was going on. This is why these calls, this is why the work that you guys are doing is so important. It seems like sometimes like I keep just talking to not homes, and I keep talking, that's my phone, it's loud. I keep talking to answering machines. All you're doing is sifting for gold. Because if you get one more person to vote, if each of you get one more person to vote in North Carolina that wouldn't have voted, that would be the margin of victory in 2012. So one person, it was 2 people per precinct. Remember, there's another 10,000 square foot phone bank going on in Oakland, or is it in San Francisco? There's another phone bank in Pasadena. There's phone banks in living rooms all on the west side. There's another place in Santa Monica where people just like you are trying to make this thing happen. And you guys may know this. Can I say it from what you said last night? Sure. California literally made half the calls of the entire nation. So let's take a moment and everybody to give that a little get a little emotional gas. Turn to somebody on your left and tell them. And this is what I tell everybody on the phones, because you know what? When I'm training somebody on the phones, I tell them, if you're talking to an undecided voter, you don't tell them, well, because Trump is whatever, because they've heard all that. Yeah. If they don't know that already, they must not be comprehending what's going on. But if they're still on the phone with you, if they're still talking and engaging and listening with you, they're looking for a reason to vote for Hillary. So what you do is tell them why voting for Hillary is so important to you personally. Not for me, I can say I I grew up on the west side of Chicago. My mother was a crackhead. My aunt was a crackhead, and I didn't know who my father was till I was like 12 or 13 years old. My mother used to beat me when I was a kid. Physical abuse, but what was worse was the verbal abuse, the emotional abuse. She would say things like, you're never gonna do shit, be shit, or have shit. Sorry if I'm cursing the campaign office. I only had you for a welfare check. I wish the abortion it took. So I got taken away from my mother. It was after one really crazy night. And I got placed with my grandmother. And my grandmother loves me more than life itself. My grandmother's amazing. But sometimes when people grow up in low socioeconomic means, they kind of put a ceiling on. It's not because they don't want the best for you, but they're afraid that their kids, if you reach out for the stars, you're going to trip and fall and land on your face. I remember once my grandmother took me to the doctor's office, and it was a Jamaican doctor, Dr. Alexandria, and you know, I was like 8th or 9th grade. I was getting my shots, and the doctor said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "I want to be a doctor and a lawyer." Wow. My grandmother said, "Hush, boy, you ain't gonna be no doctor and a lawyer." And Dr. Alexandria said, "No, you hush. You don't tell that boy what he can and cannot do. If he wants to be a doctor and a lawyer, he can be a doctor and a lawyer. I have friends that are doctors and lawyers." And so after the first emotional thing of, you know, like, ooh, she told my grandmother, hush. It was that moment where you have somebody that is succeeding in their life that tells you that you can too. So I worked hard. I got to, I went to Northwestern. I was going to be a computer engineer, but that just didn't work out. But I graduated and pursued my goals in the entertainment industry. And then I told you guys how I found my way after eating ramen noodles and sleeping on couches here. But the beauty of having Hillary Clinton as president says that anybody can live that dream. And now I want to introduce our special guest. Please give a round of applause from the senator from the great state.
I was so desperate to do something today that because everything is at stake. I'm doing my best.
No, it's on.
I think that we haven't had time to really consider the enormous history that's going to be made tonight. And it is the fact that after struggling for so many years, finally, the women and the men who respect, love, and admire them will know there isn't anything we can't do and there isn't anyone we can't become if we want to and we work hard. That is a message of hope and opportunity and excitement. But more than that, it is beyond ironic that our first woman president would run against a man who demeans women. That's his MO. And if women support him, I would love to have a chance to discuss that with them. But they haven't asked me for my opinion. But I think we have to look inside ourselves as to what kind of people we are, as Hillary says. And isn't she just magnificent? Yeah. that have been told about her, the anger. It reminds me a lot of one of our greatest presidents ever, Barack Obama. He just can't beat us on the issues. But the irony, again, of having our first woman nominee of either party be up against a man who has lived his life treating women like objects, demeaning them, disrespecting them, rating us on the way we look, really. You know, my son Doug, who's here with me, I don't know where he went, but he's here. He showed me a photo today that showed up in his email box, and he doesn't know if it's been doctored. So this is not, I'm not telling you this is real, but it's funny anyway. It's a picture of Donald Trump voting, looking over at Melania and to make sure
She's voting for the right
person.
for.
Because here's a woman who gets up. She made 2 speeches. The first one, she stole from Michelle Obama, who her husband had been kind of demeaning. The next one, she goes against cyberbullies who call women out on their looks. If I'm him, I'm wondering who to do. What you're doing today, calling into an important swing state, this is so important. And, you know, we were so blue in California, and I want to remind you, we haven't always been so. When I ran, it was quite purplish reddish in '92, and if it wasn't for Anita Hill, who had the courage to come forward, I never would have made it. Diane would have made it because she was just way better known. And people would say, I can't possibly vote for 2 women. They would say, we can't vote for 2 women. Barbara, you're terrific, but I'll only vote for 1 woman. I didn't know what to say other than, well, you voted for 2 men and it never bothered me. Then they'd have the really, you know, the line they were thinking about. And 2 Jewish women? And Diane would say, 2%. I love this, you know, because Diane's very formal. 2% may be good for the fat content of milk, but it is not good enough for 2% of the Senate to be women. And I would say, I think we need a lot of chicken soup in the Senate. But people stepped up in California, and now we know we're always trendsetters. We were red, we were purple, we were blue. And so now we want to make sure that states like Arizona, North Carolina, that they come through for us. And, you know, again, I haven't really taken in the implications of what's going to happen tonight if we do our job. Because I almost don't want to go there right now because it's so deep in me, I don't know what will happen. And I don't want to stand here in front of you having a complete breakdown. Or a total giddy fit. I don't know what's going to happen when I really focus on it. But I'll leave you with this. I just wrote a book. I hope you buy it. Called The Art of Tough. It's the art of tough. It's not the art of a deal. It's the art of tough. And it talks about how tough you have to be in the business that I've been in. I call it a business in quotes. To be in public life. And Hillary, you know, every job she's had, when she leaves that job, people go, she's the most fabulous person. All these senators who are berating her, right? You have to be tough and stand up for yourself. I open my book with quotes from right-wing pundits. Because I think you're known by the friends you make and the enemies you make. So Ann Coulter said about me. This is so mean. You couldn't dream of this one. Barbara Boxer is the perfect Democrat, female and learning disabled. I told you, you couldn't dream that up. Okay. I wonder what she's thinking now. So I'm going to close, and then I'm going to make, because I'm keeping you from your phone, so that's not good. And just say, I've been part of the women's movement, the equality movement for everybody, not just women, all of us. I don't have to go through our groups. You know who we are. We're called America. And I've been part of that movement for a long time. And when I look at the women's movement, and it starts with the suffragettes, no one knows how demeaned, humiliated, battered, and bruised they were. People don't know. And by a Democratic president, Woodrow Wilson, who promised them to vote, turned on them and force-fed them in prison. People don't know. Do you know, this is so touching, I read this morning, people are going to Susan B. Anthony's grave. And they're putting stickers on, I voted. I voted. So you've got the suffragettes. Then you take it to when I was a very young woman with a young family, and there was Gloria Steinem. And there was Betty Friedan, and you know what they were saying to me? You can do anything you want, Barbara. They didn't say my name. They didn't know me. I know Gloria now. They said, you can be, and I said, really? So there's nothing really wrong with me. I was serious, because people thought something was wrong with you if you really wanted to do something like politics or any job that a man always held. So that was the second part of the women's movement. The third part was Anita Hill. Without her, I never would have been elected. She was incredible. The next part was Hillary getting the nomination, and the last part now is her winning today. I will leave you with this. There's 1,000 reasons to vote for Hillary. But when we win tonight, there's no more limits. The sky's the limit. Thank you. I love you guys.